Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody, for our February onX Fish 101 Masterclass. We'll get rolling in just a little bit here. While we wait for everybody to get kind of logged in and get situated, we'll just go over a few housekeeping items. So first things first, your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see you or hear you. No worries if you have noise in the background. Not a concern on our end there. If you do have questions, we have a couple members of our customer experience team. They're going to be fielding them in the Q&A feature. Should be along the bottom of your screen on most devices. That's the spot for questions. Chat is also there if you just want to drop in, where you're tuning in from, who you are is a great spot for that. But questions in the chat do tend to get lost, so we'll only be answering those that are dropped in the Q&A feature there. This class is being recorded, so you can go back and view it later if you'd like, if there's anything you missed or if you have to drop off early or something. How it works is tomorrow evening, we will send everybody an email with the YouTube link to this class so that you can view it whenever you want or send it to a friend or anything like that. And finally, we are also doing a giveaway at the end of the class. We're going to be giving away some of these hats like I'm wearing, if you can see that. So we'll post that giveaway link towards the end of the class. You do have to be present to enter. Giveaway closes at midnight Mountain Time tonight, and then I will send an email to everybody tomorrow. I'll send the email to all the winners, I should say, and we'll get your hats shipped out. So if you're watching this on the recording after February 4th, apologies, you're not eligible to win, but we'll do a giveaway at pretty much every class. So show up to a future one and get your name in the hat. And with that, I'm going to toss it over to Joel. Joel is in his fish house. How's it going tonight?
It's going great. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for having me, Jack. My name's Joel Nelson. I work with onX Fish as kind of the marketing lead, and I'm in Minnesota. I'm in my Yeti fish house right now. Don't worry, I don't have any bait on that rattle reel, so we shouldn't get interrupted, at least for now. Fishing plans are still being formulated, as we would say. But I'm going to take this opportunity to just answer a few questions at the outset. Thank you so much for all the people that are joining. We're really happy to see so many people on the call. We really enjoyed the opportunity to share all these things with you. And a lot of the questions that you guys asked as registrants when you got into the masterclass were ones that we wanted to address right away. So just a couple of those to answer questions that have been burning, questions that have been from previous master classes at the outset, and then we'll dive right into the app. So first question we received from a number of people: does onX Fish have HD contours? And I'm going to address that right at the outset by saying we currently use contour data acquired from specific state DNRs in the states that we're at, currently Minnesota and Wisconsin. That typically reflects 10-foot contours. And there's no release set date for this update. But in the meantime, we really want to focus on the fact that we're solving a question that's burning for most anglers, which is where to find fish, where to go, what lakes to hit. We're helping people in a way that's previously not been possible to answer what's in the lake just down the road and what's in lakes that I've always wanted to fish, but maybe didn't know what was inside. So we're using the app as a one-stop planning tool to make sure that all of the features that we're going to go through tonight are going to help you guys catch more fish, and we're really excited to do it with you. Another question: when will onX Fish be available for Android? We currently don't have it on the Google Play Store. It's on the iOS App Store. We do plan to release an Android version of the app in the future, but don't have a date yet for you. But in the meantime, if you're an Android user, I've got an Android phone, you can still use those features, whether you're on a desktop, whether you're in the web map, whether you're on a tablet or your phone. You can use the web map version that I'll be showing you today as an Android user and have a really great user experience at the same time. So another question: why is my favorite lake not in the app? Why is there no fisheries data for some of the lakes that I'm looking at? A key point of distinction amongst our app is that we make use of fisheries data from each respective state's DNR or game and fish division. So we've got accurate, up-to-date, complete information for you guys from these entities. We summarize it into our format and provide it to you, the angler, so you can use it out on the lakes that you have. If your favorite lake isn't present, It's likely because that lake has not been sampled. So the data just isn't available at this point in time. So that's kind of what you should look for if your lake isn't being represented. My state isn't listed on the app. When's it coming? Well, hey, onX Fish, we're committed to helping as many anglers in as many different states as possible. And though we're not everywhere yet, we plan to be. We're just going to focus on filling in Midwest states as we expand. We don't have timelines for those new states yet, but rest assured we hear your feedback. We're listening closely to our customers to determine where to move next. So stay tuned, new states on the way. All right, another last question. The app says it's free for a limited time. When are you going to start charging? What will the price be? It's a great question, but we're still in this feedback gathering stage. We're doing our best to make that app as good as it can be for you guys and for the most anglers possible. Haven't yet landed on a timeline for charging yet, but please download the app today. Use it. Enjoy it while it's free in this stage of product development. We're going to reach out to you. There'll be ample communication when we start charging. But again, focus on the lead, which for us is all about helping you guys find new places to fish and have the confidence to be able to tackle new waters in 10 minutes of information, just like you were there learning it on the ground for 10 years. That's really our goal to help you guys out. So without further ado, let's jump into the app. I'm going to share my screen, take that away from Jack. We're going to go over just a second here. Stick with me. All right. Can you guys see my screen right now? What are we seeing, Jack? Looking good?
Yep, I'm looking at the web page right now.
Excellent. All right. This is the first stop for so many of you. If you're an Android user or you just want to use it on web, this is a great way to get into the app. And it's the landing page for all things that are on Xfish. If you have questions about the app, if you want to check out our blogs to learn more about how to fish with the app, the features inside of it, a lot of the same questions you have tonight, you're going to find it directly on this page. It is onxmaps.com/fish. Visit that, and then you can dive right in. If you're in Minnesota like I am, try for free in Minnesota. I click on that link. If you're joining us from the app, you've probably already got it on your Apple iOS phone. Click on the app and get started right now. So you can see it brought me into the central part of Minnesota near Mille Lacs Lake. And the map that I have configured, it's really nice. It's really easy to look at. It's aesthetically pleasing, but it's also easy to understand. And I think what so many people do is they just start clicking away on the map, and that's a great way to get situated and figuring out what onX Fish is all about. So I implore you, you can't break it. There's nothing you can do wrong. Go ahead and click on it. Learn what you can learn by just perusing around the map, zooming, panning. But you might see a couple things right at the outset. You might see some of these dots that are listed on some of these lakes. That might be something that piques your interest. And if you were to click on the very first feature here, Lake Finder, you'll see a number of lakes that are listed in the area. And as I mouse over those individual lakes, you see they're highlighted on the map. I'll show you that again one more time. In the upper left, I click on Lake Finder. Once I click on Lake Finder, I can go ahead and start mousing over some of these lakes. And you see they're highlighted according to certain categories. Abundant walleye. These are lakes with abundant walleye populations, again, as identified by the Department of Natural Resource for the respective state we're in, like Minnesota. You can see a whole laundry list of them if you want. Or we can look at things that are suggested also in Lake Finder, like abundant bluegill or crappie. These are areas that, again, the DNR has sampled and found there to be a high catch per unit effort of fish in a certain species, in this case, abundant bluegill or crappie. More on CPUE later. So if you're just literally perusing the map, if you're zooming in and out and checking different things, you can click on Lake Finder and get a general suggestion, an idea of what's what and where as you individually mouse over these cards for the area that you're zoomed into. Again, that's the key, for the area you're zoomed into. If you're zoomed in really tight, there might not be a whole lot of information there in the Lake Finder for you. Remember how I mentioned those blue dots? Let's zoom in just a little bit to Mille Lacs here, and we'll just click on one of them and see what it says. So as you see, this individual points is area 16. It's Blue Jug. If you've ever fished Blue Jug, it's a mud flat out in the lake. And in the area insights, it indicates from mid-June to the end of July, mud flats such as Matin, Resort, and Blue Jug can provide anglers with numerous walleye. These fish will be scattered, and drifting live bait rigs across the flats will help you locate active fish. So if you're brand new to Mille Lacs, you've never fished this place, these blue points, these fishing hotspots data, as you've probably seen the maps of in bait shops over the years, the little blue fold up maps will give you an idea for species of interest at these locations, times of year to target them, specific techniques that work well to capture these species. And then you'll see there's also fisheries information that comes along for all of these fishing hotspots data, seasonal movements, forage. It's really interesting to know on a lot of these lakes whether they've got Cisco in them or not. Tullaby for a lot of people who are more familiar with that term. So those blue dots really offer you a ton of information on favorite spots, typical areas that fish are found, along with top species to catch in those areas. So without diving into the species data yet, that's a great quick example of everything you can find in some of the fishing hotspots data. If you look, there's other lakes throughout the state that are highlighted by fishing hotspots data. But let's focus on Mille Lacs. I really want to help you guys as anglers figure out how to get the most from the onX Fish app. And that's important because as an angler, this is a tool to help you with planning. Again, talking about finding new lakes, we're here to give you guys the confidence that it takes to try a new lake that you've maybe never fished before. And the way you do it is to start looking around and thinking about, okay, let's say I was taking a trip to this area, this part of the state of Minnesota. I'm going to stay on the west side of Mille Lacs, maybe out of Max Twin Bay or something like that near Garrison. And I want to find information on surrounding lakes. The very first step that you guys need to do to gather more information is to utilize our filters. And I'm going to keep saying that word filters. All filters are is a way to help you discern between different lakes and species for characteristics in the fisheries data you want to choose. So to get the filters, you see me highlighting this all filter button. I can go ahead and click on all, and it pulls up all of the filters for the entire map. Again, this is focused on my zoom area. I'm zoomed in pretty tight to Mille Lacs, so I'm going to back out just a little bit and include more area in my search. Let's say I'm interested in walleye lakes, but I want to find walleye lakes that are not named Mille Lacs. Maybe it's a blow day. Maybe the weather's rough and it's nasty and I've got a small craft. What I can do is I can select walleye, and all of the lakes that also have walleye in them are highlighted with these small red icons of a fish with a fish hook in it. So that satisfies our search currently. Maybe we're looking at walleye lakes that have keeper potential. I've selected that premium filter. Again, there's 3 filters here that are premium filters that are going to cue you into some specific data regarding the species you choose. You can choose trophy potential, high abundance, or keeper potential. Let's look at keeper potential first. And as I look, I can kind of look. There's a couple different lakes that have a high keeper potential. I'll just click on Elm Island. It's one of many. I can go ahead. I see this little card. Elm Island is highlighted. Again, to get to Elm Island, I just went from my filter. I selected walleye. I selected keeper potential. And then I saw it was listed in red. I just clicked inside the boundary of the lake to pull up the lake card. Walleye was what we were interested in. And right away, you can see, before I even go here, at this initial card, it says there's above average abundance in Elm Island. There's keeper potential. And if you look at this catch per unit effort slider, which I'll show in a little more detail down here once I click into it, you can see that it is above average for a gillnet survey that was done in 2023 for lakes just like it in its class. So this is above average for a lake. It has keeper potential, meaning a significant portion of the walleye population of this lake are considered within keeper range. And if you look at the fisheries distribution of the data, you can see a lot of those fish are in that 15 to 19, 20 inch range that a lot of people like for keeping. And if you scroll back in time, I can look by clicking this left arrow or right arrow. I can historically look back to see where the surveys were, how strong a survey it was, and get an idea of certain populations and size classes that are moving their way through the fishery. Elm Island doesn't have a ton of fisheries data attached to it. But if we look at Mille Lacs, which is surveyed much more regularly, we see that you can go back and year by year look at all of the individual fisheries data. Again, to get there, I simply clicked on the lake of interest. It was Mille Lacs, and then I clicked on walleye to get more information there. So let's get back to our filters. Let's not get too distracted here. Again, I click on all. I've highlighted walleye, but maybe I'm not into keepers. Maybe I'm interested only in trophy fish. I want to select walleye and I want to select trophies. And these are all of the lakes in which big walleyes have been caught over time. So let me just click on one, for example, Spirit. So I click on, I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. I'm going to zoom in a little tighter to make sure my click is more accurate. I click on Spirit. You see that there's low abundance of walleye, but if you scroll to the very bottom, you see that in 2017, a 28-inch walleye was surveyed from there. And also you get, just like the other lakes, an idea of where most of the year classes are kind of hanging out. So was it a fluke? Maybe. There's not a lot of great big fish within Spirit, but it just gives you an idea of the potential of an individual lake to produce a trophy. All right, let's go back to those filters. Again, just showing you quick. All, and then I click on walleye. Maybe I'm interested in high abundance lakes and not trophy lakes. Well, let's maybe look at Farm Island in this instance. Okay, if we look, it's a keeper potential lake, but we also see that the catch per unit effort means that this is a high above average lake for finding walleyes inside of it. So that's a really great thing as well. Maybe we're just interested in bending a rod. Maybe we just want to have a gas catching a whole bunch of walleyes. And you can see there were 110 fish surveyed in the 2023 survey. And you look back historically, more than 100 fish in 2016, right around 100 fish in 2013. Farm Island is consistently a lake where there's an abundance of walleyes. Okay, it's good to know. We've used our species filter, but maybe let's switch to a different species. Let's again take this idea about us fishing on Lake Mille Lacs, staying there, and maybe this is a winter type experience, just like we're in now. I'm going to switch from the walleye filter, and I want to look for crappie lakes to eat some fish. You know, Mille Lacs has a slot on it, and it's not always easy to find keeper fish to eat. Let's look for keeper crappies. Crappies are a favorite in the winter. You see all of the filters. I've only focused on these first three, but you see that we can adjust by boat launch, the surface type. I want to make sure maybe there's a restroom at the access. Maybe I can restrict my interest to smaller lakes if I wanted to do that. There's a lot of ways to stack this filter. But first and foremost, the closest lake to where I'm staying comes up. It's Smith Lake. Let's go ahead and spend a little time looking at Smith, for example. You see it's highlighted in red. We've satisfied our criteria for the selection. And you see right away, without even clicking into crappies, it's an above average abundance lake for crappies. There's keeper potential there. In the last survey, there were a lot of fish in that 9 to 10, 9 to 11-inch range, which is really great to see. And you see that the catch per unit effort is really high. It's 2.09. It's well above that blue bar of the average range for similar lakes. And it's a great thing because we've got an understanding now that, hey, Smith is probably a pretty good crappie lake. But as we look around, you see this Garrison public water access. We don't have that for Smith Lake. We don't see a public access. But maybe we can find another way into Smith Lake because we fall in love with it. We really want to check it out. You look around, and the thing that onX Hunt has been known for many years, it's public and private data layers. It's really apparent that you can check this out in onX Fish as well. And you can see some Minnesota Department of Forestry land. That would be a way to access that lake in the winter. But there looks not to be any good road systems there. Whereas if you look in the southwest portion of the lake, you've got a little gravel road called Linden Street. If I click on the area of land right up against Linden Street. I can see that this is tax forfeited land. This is legally accessible in Minnesota, tax forfeit lands. You could park off to the side of Linden Street, and as long as you weren't blocking any traffic, you'd be able to tow your ice sled out to the lake and go ahead and fish Smith Lake, even though there wasn't a public access. So that's just another real world example of using onX Fish to be able to gather information that you otherwise wouldn't have had, get the confidence to fish a nearby lake, and make sure that it has exactly what is in there that you're after. In this case, keeper potential crappies. So with that said, I'm just going to pause a little bit. I'm going to go back to those filters, make sure everybody understands how I kind of got there again. I'm just going to take one more step through that. So we're going to look real quick. I selected all this filters. There's a couple different ways to get to it, but this is a really easy one. I selected all. I selected crappie and keeper potential lakes, and that was how I found that lake. But you see there's many other lakes in the area that have these criteria. Okay, let's pick a specific lake. Let's go to Farm Island and we'll really pick apart the lake by lake information. Okay, so I click on Farm Island and I see a lot of information. I see it's got a max depth of 56 feet, almost 2,000 acres, average 9-foot water clarity. That's good to know. It might affect your presentations and how you go about fishing that lake. You see filtered species. These were the filtered species that I chose. I had crappies still on. I can go ahead and turn that off and go back to Farm Island. And then you'll see that Farm Island has a whole bunch of different species listed. The top species, bluegill, pumpkin seed, walleye, largemouth, perch. I can click see all species in the lake so that I can get the full list of game fish that I might be after. You can see there's a high abundance of pike there, generally smaller ones, and even a little bit of smallmouth in that lake. But again, each of these individual fish species within Farm Island, I can click on to get more information. So if I want more information on each of those species for the lake I'm interested in, I simply click on the lake and then scroll through the species of interest. Another thing you'll note, special regs. That's good to know. There's a special regulation set for Farm Island. No more hunting through that little booklet, right? No more looking on the DNR website and sifting through endless PDFs of does Farm Island fit in one of these classes of lakes that has special bluegill regulations. Instead, it just simply lists whatever special fishing regulations are for that entire lake. In this case, it's only walleye, all from 16 to 19 inches must be released immediately. And this is so important. We update this information directly from the DNR website. So you'll always be on the right side of the law as long as you're utilizing onX Fish to view any kind of special regulations. You also see that we've got accesses and amenities listed. There's 2 water access points within Farm Island, and actually you can click on them individually to get more information on each of the accesses and what's going on there. You can see that a toilet is available in both. That's something that a lot of users have found very handy just to know at the outset. And so there you have it from a fisheries perspective. We've got data that you can search via filter, like we talked about, like I'm showing you right here. We've got data that you can search by clicking on an individual lake and looking at the individual species of interest and all of its characteristics. And we've also got a lot of ancillary data based on that lake for everything from special regulations to the accesses and amenities, the surface type, and all of the things that are wrapped into that specific lake for all game species that are listed here. So that's a real quick rundown of the fisheries data within onX Fish. Again, focus on these filters to help get you there. And then once you get nearby and you've satisfied the conditions of your search, go ahead and click on the individual lake to get more information and data on the fish that you want to catch. All right, I'll take a little break for air. Jack, was there anything that I could put more clearly? Is there anything that's coming up in the questions that we want to review really quickly while we're on fisheries data? What do you got for me?
Yeah, there was a couple folks who were having trouble. They were on a mobile device
Yep.
finding the lake finder. Now that is something we updated recently. So it
Yes.
should be in the lower left corner of your map screen if you're on an iPhone. If it doesn't say Lake Finder there, you're probably on an older version of the app. You may have to go update your app and then you'll see that listed there. There was also a question of that catch per unit effort. Could you explain a little bit more what that means and why
For
that
sure.
date is important?
You got it, man. Catch per unit effort simply states that for a certain amount of pressure, sampling pressure, in this case, it's gill nets quite often in Minnesota, for a length of gill net, a length of time that it's set out, X many fish were caught. So it is the amount of fish that were caught divided by the unit effort, the either expressed in length of nets, duration of set, however they determine to do it. And why that's important is it's just like you're out fishing. I may catch 3 fish in a weekend, but that's a low catch per unit effort. If I caught 30 fish in a weekend, obviously that's a higher catch per unit effort, and I'm catching a lot more fish. I'm having more fun doing it. It's a better lake for that individual species. So, simply put, a high catch per unit effort means there's a large number or abundance of that specific species in the lake that we're looking at individually.
Awesome. So to really make it easy, bigger the number on that, generally, the better.
High is a good thing. Yeah,
All right. I think we've kind of covered the questions that stood out to me there. Uh,
excellent.
should we jump into the app here?
Let's do it.
Awesome. I'm going to take over the share here
You got it.
and I'm going to pull up the app on my iPhone here. So it may take a minute to get get switched over there. All right. So I'm viewing this on my iPhone right now. You'll notice it looks very similar to what Joel just showed on his computer. Just about all the features that are available on the computer are available to you on the iPhone here. So up at top, you've got all your filters that we just went over. Lake Finder that we talked about is in the lower left-hand corner. Again, I did see a question in there. Somebody asked, well, how do I update my app? So the way you update your app is the way all apps are updated. You'd have to go into the App Store. This is if you don't have automatic updates turned on. Um, most of the time, phones are set by default to automatically update, usually at night, usually when you're connected to Wi-Fi. So if you don't have automatic updates turned on, or if you don't connect to Wi-Fi at night, you may have to go in manually to the App Store to do your updates there. I don't have time to really show you that in depth right now, but our customer support could walk you through that. If you want to shoot us an email, help@onxmaps.com, they can take care of you there. But what I want to talk about right now are a couple of, well, the first one is an app specific feature, and that's offline maps. So if you've used any of the other onX apps before, Hunt, Off-Road, Backcountry, this should be familiar to you. But if not, this will be brand new. So a lot of the lakes in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and elsewhere, you have good cell service, but a lot of places you don't. So you'll need to save an offline map if you want to utilize the app features when you're offline. So for example, I often use the Boundary Waters as an example. Probably not great cell service for most of the Boundary Waters. I know permits just went on sale, I think last week. So hopefully if anybody was trying for a permit, hopefully you got the one you wanted up there. Let's say I have a trip planned. I'm going to want to be able to navigate. I don't want to get lost. I have some campsites I want to aim for, something like that. I can turn on my offline maps. So along the bottom of my screen, second from the left, tap the button that says offline maps. Then there's going to be a button that says new map. Once I tap on that, you'll notice my screen changes a little bit. So this green box on my map, on my phone screen, is what is going to be saved. I can zoom out a little bit so you can get a better sense of the area to be saved there. And your dimensions might be a little bit different. It's kind of dependent on your phone screen size and dimensions. So if yours aren't matching up exactly with mine, No worries, nothing's broken. It's just the idiosyncrasies of different cell phones. So I can still adjust. I'm just using my finger right now to move my map around. I can still get it adjusted where I want. Let's say, all right, that's the area I want to save right now. I can also choose the detail level that I want to save this map. Medium is going to be chosen by default. And that's for a boundary waters trip. That's probably what I'm going to use, especially if we're going to be covering a lot of ground. If you know you're going to Lake XYZ, and that's the only lake we're going to be fishing, you might choose a high detail map. And you see the size difference there. The higher the detail, the smaller the size. And when we're talking about detail, that's your imagery. That's going to be the resolution of your satellite imagery. So if I know, hey, this is the area I'm going, I just want to save that, great. You can save that high detail. You can even zoom in farther if you want. You can get really close, and then your map download size is going to be a little bit smaller. You can see that down at the bottom. Every time I move the map, it estimates my download size. If space isn't a consideration on your phone, I'm of the belief, save more maps than you think you need. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, right? So I'm going to go back to my medium detail. I'm going to get the biggest one I can because I've got the space on my phone. And if I pull this white menu up, I can name my map. Highly recommend doing this. If you save 20 different maps on your phone, but you don't give them individual names, you're probably not going to remember what each of those were if it's just the timestamp on there. So since this one is in the boundary waters, I'm gonna go BWCA, and I already have one for the boundary waters I saved earlier. I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. And since this one's a little bit to the east, I'm gonna name it BWCA East, hit done, and then hit save. So that's gonna start downloading. As I open my menu up here, you can see I had 3 previously saved maps, Grand Rapids, Pokegama, and BWCA. And now my BWCA East is downloading. If I zoom out on my map, you can see those green boxes, one on, farther west in the boundary waters, and then these couple around the Grand Rapids area. Those are my previously saved maps. So you can easily tell whether you have a map saved for the area you're going or if you don't. If you're in the boundary waters and you're going to be covering a ton of country, you can put maps together. You could grid them up, or some people call it like a quilt pattern, where you can stack boxes right next to each other so that you have coverage, bigger than your standard offline map size there. You can also save maps within maps. So here I have a medium detail map around the city of Grand Rapids. But then let's say I wanted a little bit more closer detail for fishing Pokegama Lake. I saved a high detail map there. You can stack them within each other. Doesn't cause any problems or any issues there. You don't have to select a map on your app. When you are out fishing and you don't have good service, you can tap that gray go offline button. What that does is it tells the app to go into offline mode, and then it will only pull up the maps that you have saved. It's not going to try to use the cell signal, the cell network, to continuously download maps. This can be an issue if you're in an area where there's kind of iffy cell service, couple of bars, or you're in and out of service. Sometimes the app has trouble knowing, should I try to pull the signal, through the cell network and load the maps, or should I utilize the offline maps? You can click go offline to just tell the app, utilize offline maps. What I personally do when I don't have good service or no service is I'll put my phone into airplane mode. So that way it's going to put it into offline mode automatically because all cell signal is turned off. That's also going to save your battery quite a bit. So especially, if you're run and gun and ice fishing, maybe you're not in a heated shack or something, battery life can be a consideration, right? Well, one thing, keep your phone warm. That's going to be the first thing. Put it on an inside pocket. But one of the biggest drains on your phone's battery is if it's trying to connect to a cell tower. So if you just cut that off, you're going to greatly extend your battery life. For, I use that example, if you're going into the boundary waters and you need to carry power banks, you might as well use airplane mode to save as much battery as you can. A couple other commonly asked questions about offline maps. Can I still mark waypoints? Can I still see my location when I'm offline? Yes, the app functions very much like it does when you're online. There's a couple features that don't work when you don't have cell signal, like you're not going to be able to pull live weather. We'll cover weather here in a little bit. But you can still mark waypoints. You can run the tracker. You can still, see the land ownership around the lake. You can see the contours. All that information is still available to you when you don't have cell signal. Last thing on offline maps is updating them. You'll notice some of these maps say update available. What that means is since I last saved or uploaded those maps, those 3 on the bottom, something has changed within the map data. So maybe it's, most commonly it's going to be like a house along the lake has sold. Parcel data's changed. Maybe there was some other update to the app. Maybe a fishing regulation changed or something like that. You can still use that map. It's not going to fail you out there, but something's going to be out of date. So to update it, the easiest way is to tap that green button, that green check mark. I just tapped the one next to Grand Rapids, and that's going to download that update for you. You can also, if I go up to the top right corner of the menu here, tap those ellipses, I can hit update all maps. That will update all of mine. It'll just queue them up and do them one by one. So this is something, it's a good idea to update them when you can. Don't let it keep you from fishing. I've talked to people who they were like, man, I was driving out and it said update available. I had to pull over and find a McDonald's to get some Wi-Fi so that I could update. Man, just go. Don't let it keep you from your weekend or from your evening of fishing, whatever you're doing. Just update them when you get the chance. I'm lucky I work at onX. I use the app all the time, so I update them at the office quite often. Just do it when you have some good Wi-Fi and when you have time to just let those updates run there. All right. Hope that covers offline maps. If there's still some questions, drop them in that Q&A box and our customer support team will help you out. I mentioned waypoints earlier. I'm going to go over a couple clicks to my right here. So still along the bottom of my screen to the button that says tools. If I open that up, you can see there's a bunch of different tools available to you. Most commonly used for most people is going to be waypoints. Now, waypoints are, if you've used a handheld GPS or you've got the unit in your boat that lets you mark waypoints, this will be familiar to you. So they can be used to mark anything you want, right? So I'm just going to stay on Pokegama here because that's where I am. In my tools, lower left icon says add waypoint. When I tap add waypoint, it's going to place a waypoint icon in the middle of my screen. Maybe that's not where I want it to be. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. The closer you zoom in, the more accurate you can be. If I want to readjust this, all I'm doing is tapping on the screen. So that's all I'm doing with one finger. I'm just tapping. Let's say, that's where I want it to be. Great. Just like offline maps, please name and customize your waypoints. You don't want to have a bunch of green X's with a waypoint name like waypoint February 4th, 25, 1808. That doesn't mean anything, right? 6 months from now, a year from now, when you go back, you're like, man, what was I doing there? What was I marking? Was that where, somebody's truck went through? Was that where I caught a big lake trout? So type in a waypoint name. That's the first thing I recommend. I'm just going to name this one example because I can't think of a better example to type in right now. Then the next thing, go to type. We have dozens of different waypoint icons you can put in here. You know, maybe it's a perch. It's a perch icon or a bluegill, eagle, whatever you want, right? Maybe you're marking where there's a hazard, there's a log in the water that you want to avoid. You want to mark where, you know, you saw Sasquatch. Odd place to find him, but you never know. He pops up in weird places. I'm gonna go back to my perch one. And then the last thing I recommend is develop some sort of a color coding system. And there's not really any right or wrong way to do this. Your color could be by year. Some people will do that. And, you know, this is really the first year of onX Fish, but I'm going to steal some examples from our hunt customers and how people use onX Hunt. They would say, all right, in 2021, all of my icons are red. 2022, they're blue. 2023, they're black. So you can see that change over the years. I could see that being very valuable in fish as well. It's like, man, last year we were really hammering them right here. Last year, this is where Joe had his fish house out or something like that. You could do it by species if you wanted. You could say all of my perch spots are going to be green. My walleye spots are going to be red. My crappie spots are going to be blue. Then you can really tell at a glance where all of those spots are, and you don't have to necessarily click on them to look at the name or more information. Again, no real right or wrong way to do it. I would say the only wrong thing to do with waypoints is to do nothing. It's all about being efficient. So the more work you put in right away, the more you're going to thank your future self. Your future self will thank current self. Stumbled over my words there. So do yourself some favors in the future so that you're not scratching your head like, I marked a waypoint here, but what was it for? Type some information in there, change the color. If you want, take photos. That's one of my favorite features of this is, man, if you catch a trophy muskie, add the photo to that waypoint. If you catch a whole bunch of eater sunfish, you know, add a photograph there. It's sometimes just fun to look back on, if for nothing else. I'm going to hit the save button here so you can see I've got a perch icon. It's blue. It's named example. Again, that's not very helpful to me now. One question that we have gotten is, can other people see my waypoints? The answer is no. So that was something I was honestly a little surprised by hearing. So this is your data. When you mark waypoints, when you put notes and pictures in there, it's not public. Only you are able to see that. You can imagine, man, if somebody is really got a spot dialed in and they're marking waypoints and taking pictures, it's probably not going to be a great spot for long if that was all public. So your data is your data. It's yours. Nobody else can see that, and that includes us. We can't see what you're putting on there or anything. There's a couple other ways to mark waypoints. One I'm not able to demonstrate because I am located in Missoula, Montana. Mark my location. That is how you can mark the spot where you are currently. So this is what I would use if I was on the lake most of the time, right? If I'm marking a spot where there's a hazard, and I'm right by it, I'm gonna hit mark my location. So I know, hey, there's a log jam here. Or, you know, somebody's truck just went through the ice or something. Hopefully you're not right there. If you hit mark my location, it's going to put a waypoint right on your spot. Then you can tap on it to go in and edit it. And the last thing I want to show is the tracker. So again, I've had one running for 48 minutes. Oh no, it ran me back to Montana. Let me get back to Minnesota. All right. So the tracker is in the lower right-hand corner. Let me get back to a lake. If you tap on the tracker button and hit start, you're going to notice your red dot on the map, or excuse me, your blue dot is going to turn red. And you'll notice the timer starting to count down there, and you will see distance and speed if you're moving. I'm sitting in an office building in the middle of Missoula, so that's why that is not updating. So what this does is it's going to lay a breadcrumb trail for you everywhere that you go. So really helpful for ice fishing. if you're driving out on the lake, you can track yourself. If you want, you got a house set out and you want to show your buddy how to get there, great. Or you want to map out where a plowed road is, something like that. If you're trolling in your boat, turn the tracker on, see everywhere that you went, right? Then when you're done, just hit stop. Again, it's going to bring me back to Missoula. So it'll bring the map back to your location. You can rename it. You can edit tracks just like you can waypoints. You can change the color. You can give them names. You can change the styling of them and all that good stuff. There we go. I'm going to delete this one because I don't need a track to nowhere in the middle of Missoula, Montana. Joel, anything tools wise, offline maps wise, you think we need to cover?
One tool you might want to show real quick while you're at it is to zoom into a lake, find a public access, and show them the driving directions function. I think that's a really unsung hero of the app that if you're headed to new, different public accesses, this is just a slick feature.
Yeah. So here's Clamshell Lake public water access. I can get all my information here. It's got a trailer accessible boat launch. Along the bottom, if I scroll over, you see there's a button that says driving directions. So what this will do is it'll kick you over to Apple or Google Maps, whatever your preferred mapping app is on your phone. But then it will route you from your current location to the Clamshell Lake public water access or whichever one you select. So that one's pretty slick, just for getting the turn-by-turn directions to the public water access there. Awesome. Anything else before I give the share back to you, Joel?
No, I think that's a great recap of a number of wonderful functions in the app, and I just remind people that we are in a feedback gathering stage, but at the same time, we're really excited to share these data with you and really excited to change the way you fish. I know I've always been a fan of finding my own bites, rather than chasing reports, creating my own reports by having the confidence to go check out some of these spots. We will help you plan your next fishing trip in a way that you've not been able to before. And I think that's probably the number one thing to take away from this presentation. And there's a lot more to come here. Yeah, Jack, pop that up again real quick. Feedback. This is a great format and forum for you guys to share anything you want to share about the app. Let us know things that disappoint you. Let us know things that you're really excited about and really want to lean into. All of it is great constructive feedback that, yeah, definitely we're paying attention. We're listening to the customer and trying to make the best app possible. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take the share back from you.
I
And
do
we're going
want
to
to,
come.
while you're doing that, I do
Yeah.
want to mention that feedback tool don't necessarily expect a reply from us on that feedback. We just don't necessarily have the bandwidth to reply to everything. So I did hear from a customer, they're like, man, I submitted feedback. I had a question. I never heard back. If you do have like a question, something you would like an answer to, whether it has to do with your password or how to do something in the app, please just email our regular customer support email. That's help@onxmaps.com. That's going to get you the quickest and best answer, just by emailing us there. So wanted to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great and important points to make. I kind of want to dance you guys around the screen for the rest of the time we have here and cover basically what it is that you're seeing. So there's not many parts of the app that you haven't at least had some exposure to. And really, I think it's going to help you guys get the most out of the app. So you've seen my content. Jack showed it to you in a little different format on the app version, but my content is where all of your waypoints have been stored. It's where all of the folders that separate that information are stored. I've got way too many tracks and waypoints to count, so thank God we're not showing them on the screen because it would just be a blur of lots of different words and colors and shapes and different kinds of waypoints. But we also have the opportunity to save lakes that you really like. So I've got a couple lakes that I've got that I'm going to quickly click off of because I don't want you to see my favorite lakes, but I want you to hunt through the species information. I want you to use the filters like we have been doing to identify lakes that, let's say, are trophy potential walleye lakes. And then you go ahead, you zoom in, you click on these lakes, and then you click this little banner in the upper right portion of the lake to save a lake like Borden as one of your favorites. So again, real quickly, if you want to make a lake a favorite, if you want to come back to it, if you've done a ton of midnight research from the couch and you really want to come back to this lake, go ahead and click on the lake itself. And then on the main lake card, this little banner, click on or click off once it is fully blacked out. That means it is a lake that's saved that you can return to very easily. So Jack covered offline maps really well. We don't need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and reset my filters, turn everything off there, and continue to kind of peruse around the map. Like I said, there's a lot more to look at than just the lake itself. There's so much other data, and a big portion of that is accessible via our layers. So whether you're looking at it via the app or the web map version like I am, if you look into the lower right-hand portion of the screen, I'm kind of circling my mouse over it. It's this little layers button. It looks like, well, a bunch of different map layers. If you click on it, you'll see it brings up a whole separate interface here. So I'm going to close it and I'm going to show you one more time. Whether you're in the app or the web version of the map, you can lower right-hand corner click on the layers button. And the first thing you see is a way to adjust your base maps. For a lot of people, that's kind of the standard that they start with, right? They want to be looking at it in either an all topo version, a hybrid version of both topo and some of the land information with aerial, or all aerial. And really the choice is yours how you want to display your map. Where we do have contours in the app, hybrid and topo will show them for the lakes that you're kind of looking around on. And then you'll see a really important feature. I want everybody to really pay attention at this point because this is super duper slick. We had a question about Upper Red Lake earlier. I'm going to zoom out. We're going to go up to Upper Red Lake. We're going to zoom in, double check Upper Red Lake. You see there is species data for Upper Red Lake when I clicked on it. I'm going to look a little tighter at Upper Red Lake, but I'm going to go back to this base map feature. You see that I've got hybrid selected, but I'm going to click on recent satellite imagery. And what that is every 2 weeks roughly, the recent satellite imagery that's flown over these areas is shared with us and we're showing it to you. So all these straight lines that you see here are actually ice roads out onto the main lake. And on recent imagery, I can go back through time and see the formation of these. I can see the ice forming. I can see how it didn't form really great at first. There was a lot of stacked ice in some locations, November 25th to December 9th. And before that, it was open water with a little bit of clouds ahead of it. Okay, how do I get there again? One more time, I'm going to show you. Lower right-hand corner, click on layers, select either hybrid or aerial. You need either hybrid or aerial selected to be able to see recent satellite imagery, and then click on recent satellite imagery. And then you see the bottom portion of my screen or the bottom portion of your app, you can actually toggle back in time. And I'm going to show you how good the resolution can really be over time. By looking at last year, you can see it was a funky year, man. We had some bad ice that was forming in that December timeframe. It even broke up more after Christmas into the New Year's portion. We had some really sketchy stuff. But then it froze up sometime early mid-January last year until we were actually starting to develop really good road systems out onto these lakes. And this is the kind of detail and data that you can actually see. If you're looking at my screen, you're looking at individual parking locations for fish houses out on the ice. And you can actually see those data and all of that recent imagery over time and how it changes based on snowmelt. But what's really cool is we can actually see portions of Upper Red Lake that got little to no pressure last year. So from an angler advantage perspective, these data are going to make you safer. They're going to keep you on plowed roads. They're going to make you smarter because you're going to fish areas that haven't seen a lot of pressure. You're going to be able to target spots that the main roads haven't gone to as long as you can secure safe access. And they're going to help you get back to shore via some of the features that Jack showed you earlier, via waypoints, via tracker. One thing we didn't talk about, we can't really show you because we're not on the lake, but we can show CarPlay. I I don't have the app. I'd love to show it to you from the fish house where I'm at on the lake, but CarPlay is something that actually connects to your phone and the app and displays where on the lake you're driving based on connecting to your in dash of your truck or automobile out on the ice. So again, it connects the app, the phone in your hand, and shares that display on your in-dash system in your vehicle of choice. So onX, just like onX Hunt, has a CarPlay and Android Auto support. We currently have CarPlay support for onX Fish. I just used it last weekend on Mille Lacs. I used it to steer clear of several cracks that were dangerous on the way out. Most importantly, when I was on shore, I laid down a safe track out to the road that my fish house took. And then when the wind really came up, we were getting about 4 or 5 inches of snow on the lake when I left Saturday evening. I was able to safely find my way off that lake by retracing my old tracks. So, recent satellite imagery with CarPlay, using it as a base map function, is a game changer. It's going to help you be safer and catch more fish. All right, enough harping about that. Let's get to some of the other layers. Private land, you see, you can turn on and toggle off all the private land area layers, just like you're used to seeing in Hunt. All that information is available in Fish. You can toggle it on, toggle it off, click on it and see it. We have active wildfires, air quality, smoke forecast, things that you may not be interested in, but things that you might be at a certain date. Precipitation radar is really nice to be able to see, so I like that a lot. Um, Thunderstorms in the summer, but for ice fishing, motorized trails and snowmobile trails helps get you. You can see the purple areas, the purple lines are the snowmobile trails. If you're looking at getting to some backwoods lakes, it's a great way to be able to figure out how to get on some of these places and take a snowmobile into them and get into them creatively. The same with motorized trails. Again, more information to help you get to a bite after you've figured out that it might be a lake that you're interested in fishing in the first place because it has what you want in it. All right. Again, the layers, all of the base map information, all of the recent imagery information inside this layers button. I click on the layers, boom, I get all those options. I'm going to go back to hybrid high quality. High quality is a leaf on imagery product. That's what you're going to see in the summer. And that's just a great high resolution way to kind of look around the map as a basic base map for you. All right, enough about layers. In the time I have left, I'm going to spit out some quick info on weather. So you'll see the weather button, lower right hand portion of my screen, upper right hand portion of yours. It might be just the little sun in the clouds icon. One unsung hero of this app is that it is basically the very best weather app you've ever used, wrapped into onX Fish, available for free as part of the app. And the weather is so good because it has what an angler wants. It's got your sunrise and sunset times. It's got basic current information on wind, on barometer, precip. It's got forecast information along with the full weekly forecast. And it's important to note it's not a forecast for the Twin Cities. It's not a forecast for Bemidji. It's a forecast for the very precise portions that I pan to on the map. All that information is interpolated to give you the very best forecast for the spot on the spot that you're checking out in the map. It's got, importantly, a barometer or a barometric pressure prediction hour by hour. So you can see key times which the barometer is going to fall and give a bite window of all bite windows. Somebody asked a question about major minors for muskie anglers. Boom, that's listed right there for the specific spots you're looking at. Major and minors giving you moonrise and set as well as when the moon is overhead or underfoot. If you're a muskie angler, you know all about that and why it's important. You can look at a lunar calendar based on the week, or you can look at it on a monthly calendar to help plan those key times. Back when I filmed the In-Depth Outdoors Fishing Show or worked with James on that stuff, man, some of the worst bites we ever had were full moon bites in the middle of winter with little snow on the ice, all of that bright moonlight shining down. Those walleyes could feed any time during the night. They didn't need to eat during the day when we were trying to film a fishing show. So, all of that is key information to be able to use. Again, the weather function within onX Fish is better than any weather app that I've used currently and gives you a ton of different information built into everything you're looking to have as an angler. Again, all of the things regarding barometer, moonrise, moonset, all of the information on an hourly basis. It's just a really great function and tool within the app. So I've gone around the entire app. I have, with Jack, shown you everything from offline maps to the fisheries data, which again, all of that fisheries data, the filtering function, that's such a strong part of our app. We're really proud to be able to share that with everybody. If you don't understand that currently, no big deal. Spend some time clicking around. If you want to look at all kinds of panfish, you can select multiple species at a time to look at keeper potential lakes that have one or the other involved, like North Twin here that you see highlighted in red. There was a question, why are some lakes highlighted in blue and some highlighted in red? The ones in blue simply don't meet your search criteria yet. So something to keep in mind. But again, that's been the app. We've shown you waypoints, we've shown you layers and the weather. That's, I think, a pretty exhaustive list. Jack, I'll have you come back on. Are we seeing anything in the questions or comments that we need to hammer on right before we leave and let people go?
Yeah, there was a couple. Before we get to that,
Yep.
I'm going to drop the giveaway link in the chat. So give me 1 second to put that one in there. And then I'm also going to just turn chat off while that's in there. Usually that link gets lost for folks, so I'm going to turn chat off momentarily just so that everybody can see that link at the bottom of the chat and can get entered there to win a hat. Couple questions here, and actually for a couple of them, I'm going to pull up my app again on my phone so I can demonstrate one thing that I forgot to mention when we were talking about waypoints here. So give me one moment for that to start. Right. Okay, so there was a question about sharing waypoints. So there is a way to do that. It's still something that's being kind of built out totally. But if you go into My Content, which is the center button along the bottom of your screen, I'm going to click on All Content. I'm going to use that example waypoint I marked earlier. If I tap on those ellipses, those three dots to the right, it's going to bring up all these options. Of course, I can edit from there. If I tap the share button, and then share with a link is how most people are going to share a waypoint. That allows me to text that waypoint or email it to somebody. So if you want to tell somebody where your ice house is located, what access to meet at in the morning, something like that, you can send that waypoint to them. While I have waypoints pulled up, one other thing, when Joel was talking about weather, jog my memory, there was a question of, how to be able to see the wind. Will wind data be included? If I tap on this waypoint that I marked and pull up this menu, waypoint tools is listed there, and you can add wind direction to that icon. So it's telling me there's no wind there right now. So you'll be able to mark your waypoints and have that weather information showing on the spot. So I can imagine this being great, especially we grew up fishing. We had a fairly small boat. Like we could fish Mille Lacs, but not everywhere on Mille Lacs. We stayed kind of close to shore, stayed behind some protected points and stuff. So you could just mark, this summer, once we get to open water, you could mark all your different fishing spots and like, oh, where am I going to go today? And, maybe this spot fishes really good when there's a little bit of walleye chop. Maybe you want to throw top water and you want to find a spot, throw in a frog for bass or something where there's no wind. Or, what direction is it blowing bait fish up against the shore, things like that. So, just another kind of little known trick there to be able to mark your wind exactly on a spot. Let's see. So some of the confusion earlier with the people unable to find Lake Finder on their app, if that was you, if you were one of the people that wrote in, it's probably labeled fishing spots. That was like a recent change in the app, so yours might still say fishing spots. It's the same data. Moving forward, everybody's will say Lake Finder. So if you were one of the folks confused by that, that explains that. We did answer the catch per unit effort. So that is a number kind of showing how much effort it took when they were sampling the lake to catch fish. What I took away from it, as I love fishing, but I'm not Joel Nelson, the bigger the number, the better. So, if you're looking at that catch per unit effort data, the higher the number means the more fish they caught per unit of effort. We answered it at the beginning. There was still a lot of folks asking in the chat. They might have missed the beginning. Android, Joel, you want to hammer that one home one more time?
Absolutely. If you're an Android user, we've got something coming for you. We just don't have a timeline yet, but you can use it via the web version of the app, and you can use that on your mobile phone. You can use that on a tablet. You can use it on your desktop. You've got a lot of options there available for you if you're an Android person. One more thing I'd like to mention to our friends in Wisconsin and the other states we'll be focusing in on. There's all the same information for the other states too. So all of the examples and the ways that I showed you to use the data in Minnesota, it all applies as long as your lake or the lakes of interest have been sampled by your DNR. That information is available to filter, sort, click on, access the different water bodies, get the driving directions. You can store the offline maps. Everything we showed you tonight is applicable in the new states that we'll be launching and releasing, and currently available in Wisconsin as well right now.
Awesome. Looks like CX is finishing up an answer to one question in there. I might as well answer it because I'm sure other people have it. They were talking about if I mark a waypoint on the web version, does it show up on my phone? Yes, it does. I forgot to mention that earlier. So if you mark waypoints and track yourself on your phone, that's going to sync up with the web version and vice versa. If you're doing a bunch of scouting and planning, you mark up a bunch of waypoints on the web version, those will transfer over to your phone. There's nothing you need to do manually to transfer them. They sync up automatically. So thank you to whoever asked that question. That's a good reminder for me to cover that in future classes. All right. And with that, if you don't have anything else, I think we'll thank everybody for joining us and hope to see you on a future class. And let us know, please use that feedback feature in the app. That's how we make this thing better and more useful to you. So please let us know what you'd like to see in the future, and hope everybody has a good night.